Hey there everybody, just doing a review for this Timeusb Battery Socket Outlet T1. And so yeah, this is from Timeusb. They showed me this product and they just asked me to review it, and I was actually pretty interested in reviewing it as well because I've never seen anything like it before. I mean, there are probably devices like this on the market from other brands as well, but this was just really intriguing for me since I've been reviewing deep cycle lithium iron phosphate batteries. As you can see, I have the Timeusb 50 amp hour battery right over there. And so yeah, basically what this is just like a charging brick that you can connect directly to a deep cycle battery. And it just lets you charge devices through the charging ports, the cigarette lighter port, and these two DC barrel ports right over here. I'm going to be testing it out in this review. And as you can see, that is the box for the socket outlet. This is the socket outlet itself. It is pretty small, I gotta say. It does have a 3.5 by 2.4 by 6.6 inch form factor, and it weighs about like let me take a look at the manual real quick. Yeah, it weighs about 1.3 pounds. So it is small and lightweight. So in the box, you get the socket outlet, of course. You get these mounting screws. So one of the best things about this is that you can actually mount it to the wall right over here because of these holes, and you can use these screws to mount it with. So that's pretty nice. I won't be mounting it in this review, but that's actually pretty cool. That's a pretty good idea how to use it. It does have another Anderson connector right over here, along with these metal connectors, I suppose, that you would use with the Anderson connector. And over here, of course, this is the main cable. This is the Anderson connector right over here. You got the two O-rings, the negative and positive O-rings that you would use to connect to the battery, and this would connect to the bottom of this socket outlet. And so yeah, that's pretty cool. Once again, I'm going to be connecting it to that Timeusb battery right over there, and just taking a look at the manual right over here. It does have quite a bit of information. I know I usually don't go through manuals in my reviews, but I'm just making an exception for this time because this was just a really interesting product. Like, once again, I've never seen anything like this before, but in my opinion, I find this to be very helpful, because with the AC inverter, all you get mainly is a AC outlets and probably like standard USB-A ports. But with this product, it's just a fully fledged like charging brick for your battery, because you get like the USB-C ports, quick charge, standard USB-A ports, cigarette lighter port, the DC barrel port. I mean, you also get a screen as well. We're going to be checking out the screen in this review too. And as you can see, it just lays out everything right there that I just mentioned. All right, DC 12 volt to 24 volt Anderson input and output ports, max 40 amps for each Anderson outlet and for all outlets. And this is basically telling you how to mount the socket outlet. And over on this side of the manual, 40 amp Anderson connector, wire connector, extension cord for battery connection. Wire gauge is 11. Okay, length is 15 feet. So yeah, this is a pretty long cable, I gotta say. That's good. It's also really thick. Hence probably the 11 wire gauge. Max continuous current is 20 amps. Max load power is 256 watts for 12 volts, 512 watts for 24 volts. M8 eyelet ring terminals connect to the battery. Yep, as I mentioned before, these ends, of course, connect to the battery. This one goes into the socket outlet over at the bottom, right over here. Taking a look over here, the extension cord supports max 20 amps continuous input-output current. If the device draws more than 20 amps, a larger wire gauge is required as recommended below. Okay, so yeah, you can actually draw more power depending on what wire gauge you have. That's pretty neat. I didn't know that was a thing, but okay. If shorter wires are required, the smaller wire gauge can be used accordingly. If longer wires are required, then larger wire gauge should be selected. Okay, just taking a look over at this side of the manual. More info on how to mount the socket outlet. If you're wondering what that noise is, those are my cats running around. Step 2, connect the provided extension cord to the socket and the battery. Yep, there we go. Connect the loads to the socket. Turn on the power switch. All right, yeah, and it has an LCD screen, battery capacity level indicator, battery voltage display. That's pretty cool. I can't wait to see this because it actually shows the battery capacity indicator and the voltage. That's just like, an extension of the battery then, because it shows you what's happening with the battery. The battery capacity level displayed on the socket is estimated by the battery voltage reading. These are the specifications. This is the Model T1. The voltage is 12 volts to 24 volts. Case material is made of ABS. So yeah, I mean, the build quality of this socket outlet isn't breaking any records, but it does have a solid build. In my opinion, it just like, it's just your normal like plastic product really. Yeah, it's good. And over here, DC outlet, this just shows the charging power for each of the ports. As I mentioned already a few times, the Anderson input and output are 40 amps. And as I mentioned before, you get the two standard USB Type A ports that each have a 12-watt output. Each of the quick charge ports have a 18-watt output, and each of the USB-C power delivery ports have a 45-watt output. And you know what? 45 watts of power delivery from these two USB-C ports is good. Like that's actually pretty nice. I know they're not 100-watt power delivery ports, but that's fine, I suppose. 45 watts of power delivery is still able to charge most USB-C chargeable devices. The cigarette lighter socket is rated for 12 volts to 24 volts at 10 amps, and the two DC barrel ports are rated for 12 volts to 24 volts at 5 amps. Fuse is 40 amps. Max continuous current for all outputs is 40 amps. Yeah, I already mentioned the size and the weight. And these are just a bunch of cautions over here as well. And yeah, so that's enough of looking at the manual. Let me go ahead and get this connected up to the 50 amp hour Timeusb battery right over there that I did do a review for. If you're curious about taking a look at the full review for the for this battery, I will leave a link down in the description below. Because I have done a video review as well as a dedicated I think a battery capacity review as well. Those will be down in the description below. But yeah, let me just get this connected to the battery and we'll see how it performs. Alright you guys, so I do have the socket outlet connected to the battery. I connected the positive to positive, the negative to negative, and this is the cable untied right over here. And I connected the Anderson connector to the Anderson port over the bottom and to the input port to actually power the socket outlet. And so yeah, to turn it on, you just have to press this power button right over here. Just press it like that. It does have a blue light that turns on, and it shows the voltage, which is 13.9 volts, and it shows the battery capacity right over here. I'm not too sure why it's showing 13.9 volts because this is a 12.8 volt battery, but I guess I'm not complaining because that gives us more capacity in this case. And yeah, overall a pretty cool display. And for testing it out, I'm going to be using the two USB Type A quick charge ports and the two USB-C 45-watt power delivery ports, these two right over here, to see how they perform. And I'll be testing out the cigarette lighter port as well with my load tester. And yeah, let me get to testing it out. Let me get some devices connected and I'll be right back to see how it performs. Alright you guys, so just back with the Timeusb socket outlet, and it seems to be performing really well, I gotta say. So I've got 4 devices charging right now, and that includes these 2 phones right over here, this Galaxy Note 9 and this LG G7. I've got this Accentu's power bank and Lenovo Flex 5 laptop charging. This Galaxy Note 9 is fast charging from the quick charge port. I've got this LG G7 that is also fast charging from the other quick charge port. This Accentu's power bank is charging at about 33 watts. This power bank has a 100 watt max USB-C input, but of course this socket outlet doesn't feature 100 watts of power delivery. It features 45 watts of power delivery. So it's currently charging at about 33 watts. That's still pretty good, I gotta say. And over here I got this Lenovo laptop also charging. As you can see, the light is on and it is charging. Let me just get this watt meter transferred over to this to see how fast this is charging, because we already know that this power bank is charging at 33 watts. But let me just see the charging speed for the Lenovo laptop. Alright you guys, so just back charging the Lenovo laptop with the USB-C watt meter, and a bit of a disappointment with what I found because the laptop is only charging at about 5.6 watts. With a 45 watt power delivery port on the socket outlet, this laptop should be charging at about like 25 watts. And it is at about like a 12% battery capacity for the laptop, so it should definitely be charging at a much faster speed than 5 watts. But you know what, I just want to show you guys my findings in that case. So yeah, I mean, charging this laptop, it just like fell below expectations. But charging the Accentu's power bank at 33 watts was pretty good and was good enough for a 45 watt power delivery port. Fast charging these 2 phones from the USB Type A quick charge ports was pretty good as well. And let me go ahead and get my load tester to check out what this cigarette lighter port is capable of as well. And also we started at about 13.9 volts, but we're down to 13 volts flat. And the slim part of the battery capacity is missing right there. Oh, as you can see, yeah, when it drops in voltage, it also like removes like a bar of the battery right over here. That's pretty cool to see. It would have been pretty nice to have a wattage reading as well on this display. But yeah, that's just my opinion. Let me get my load tester to see what this cigarette lighter port is capable of. Alright guys, so I do have the load tester connected to the cigarette lighter port on the socket outlet. And when I did connect it, it automatically set to about 12 volts at 7 amps. And also when I connected it, the voltage on the socket outlet immediately dropped from 13 volts to 12.5 volts. And the battery capacity is dropping pretty fast for this Timeusb battery. And I mean, that's to be expected because I'm charging 4 devices right over here, and I've got the load tester connected as well. And the charging speed for these phones have not changed. They're still fast charging, and the LG G7 is fast charging as well. I've got this Excitrus power bank charging at about 33 watts, and the Lenovo laptop is charging at about 5 watts, as we saw before. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to let it run. I'm just going to let the load tester run, and I'll have all these devices run as well to see how long it'll take for the battery capacity to deplete while using this socket outlet. Let me just set a timer or a stopwatch. And yeah, I'll be right back once the battery capacity is fully depleted to see if I'm actually able to charge all these devices and have the load tester run as well. Alright guys, so I'm going to have to cut this review a little short because what ended up happening is that when I had the load tester connected to the cigarette lighter port, I kept turning up the wattage on the load tester just to push it a bit more, just to see what I could pull out from the Timeusb socket outlet to see if it would like automatically turn off or what would happen. And I ended up blowing the fuse with my cigarette lighter connector. My bad. This isn't the fault of the Timeusb socket outlet. I just kept turning the wattage up on my load tester, and that's what caused this thing to like basically break. I tried to remove the fuse, but I ended up breaking that as well. So I'll probably have to buy a new one. But other than that, this thing performed really well, in my opinion. If you're looking to just charge devices from a deep cycle battery like this is what it's made for basically. You know, you can charge devices directly from a deep cycle battery, and it works really well. You know, I was able to fast charge 2 phones, you know, charge this Excitrus power bank at about 33 watts. The only disappointing thing was that I was only able to charge the Lenovo Flex 5 laptop at about 5 watts for some reason. I'm not too sure why. But you know what? This is another way that you can use deep cycle batteries. You know, it's another way that you can pull power from them. And that's just good to know. The screen on the Timeusb socket outlet is also pretty cool. You know, it gives you the visual representation of the battery capacity remaining as well as a voltage reading. They're both basically the same thing. And yeah, I mean, it's just overall another way that you can pull power from deep cycle batteries. And if you find this useful, this product is for you. And it comes with everything that you would need to use it with a deep cycle battery, especially this long cable would be really helpful to you to have. And it's just built really well. You can also wall mount it, as I mentioned before, using the mounting holes over the back and the screws that are included in the box with the socket outlet. And down in the description below, I will have a link to the product page for this Timeusb socket outlet, as well as a review article. Once I get that published, that will be down in the description below as well. And I will see you all on the next video. All right, goodbye.